Well, the president's so-called compromise on the contraception issue involves requiring insurers to cover something they previously were not mandated to cover. But the president's chief of staff claims that it's all okay because we can do it all for free.
The issue with this being for free is quite an interesting one. If you look at the cost of providing health insurance, it actually doesn't cost more to provide a plan with contraceptive coverage than it does without.
Okay, folks, so how do you provide extra goods and services without it costing anybody any money? Who ultimately will pay the price? We welcome our power players, Gary B. Smith, Francis Newton, and Howard Rosencrantz. Good to see you, gang. Gary B., first you, basic math. How does 1 + 1 = 0?
Exactly. It's also basic economics. By that logic, why don't they offer, free MRIs or, free CAT scans? Because apparently, if you take a product and you add it to an existing plan, it costs nothing. And we just know that's ludicrous. I wish they would state up front, look, these costs are going to have to be borne, because that's the truth. And you know what's going to happen, David. Just like all across with the rest of healthcare, premiums for everyone that does pay to the insurance company are going to have to go up to pay for these contraceptives.
Well, and Francis, that's the thing. We already have said it's like we've already had a mini experiment. We've seen premiums go up as a result of insurers having to carry certain things they didn't used to have to carry. Like, for example, my daughter, who's now covered until she's 26. All the parents who have kids that are under 26 now have to be carried. So that's an extra cost. You can't do that for free.
Absolutely. I mean, you just have to add up absolutely everything that he's promising, and you have to know that what he is promising and what he's got these poor voters excited about is mathematically impossible at the end of the day. Here's the thing. We have a president that's willing to violate our First Amendment rights. He's willing to violate our human rights, and that is the bigger issue here. And I think that, contraception, whether you want to argue that's a good or a bad thing, if he's willing to violate our fundamental rights, how far is he going to take that?
Well, we talked about that in the last segment, but Howard, the fact is, the Wall Street Journal came out with an editorial this weekend, said there is simply no precedent for the government ordering private companies to offer a product for free, which is what they're trying to. I mean, it just doesn't economically make sense.
David, first of all, I believe wholeheartedly at the end of the day that the system will probably be in better shape. I'm in favor of contraception. I think it is a money saver all around. However, at the end of the day, it's going to cost more. I think it compromises religious freedoms, individual liberties. I agree with Betsy. I absolutely am in the same camp. But if you're asking me net, if we net it out, and that's not really the question on the table. It's going to cost more, but
well,
net, I think it's a money saver.
That's the question on our table right now, Gary B. And the other interesting thing, by the way, we all agree, I think, that it doesn't make sense. 1 + 1 = 2, not 0. But insurance companies are actually making out quite well ever since Obamacare was voted into power. They actually are feeling as though they're now offering a product that, whether they like it or not, is going to be offered, and somebody somewhere is going to be paying for it, and it's not going to be them. And it's not going to be the drug companies. It's going to be the government. Bottom line is it's going to be the taxpayer, right?
Yeah, absolutely, David. And, the problem with this whole thing, the bigger problem as I see, it's really an insult to the taxpayer out there that they can get away with saying basically what he did. He said, this is free. I mean, are they campaigning already that, my gosh, we can offer all these goods and services for free? We've seen, on the other hand, bullet hole after bullet hole in the whole Obama health care, that it looks like it's going to be a joke, and yet they propagate this thinking that, my gosh, all this goodness at no cost.
Right, but Francis, and we got to have this as the last point, because insurance companies, we're always hearing about how, well, insurance companies have made out pretty well, so perhaps Obamacare is not harmful to corporations, but they're not going to be making donations. The drug makers are still going to be charging for the pills. The doctors are still going to be charging. It's eventually the taxpayers are going to be footing the bill for these extra charges.
It's really a scary ideology to think that anybody would produce anything or work for free. It cancels out what America is about, and it will end up costing.
Howard, I'm going to give you the first word for the next segment. We got to leave it at that, though. Thank you very much. Coming up next, a small business owner faces a union drive. How he stopped it when we return.